Darlynn Morgan here, Morgan Law Group. We're an estate planning and probate law firm. One thing I'm asked a lot is, what are the most important steps to take after the death of a loved one? And actually, there's a lot that has to be done after someone's passed away. But really, to try to focus in on the most important tasks that need to be handled right away, let's talk about them. The first step is you're going to need to secure all property. That means mail, personal property, as well as any physical property. So for example, the mail usually needs to be stopped or redirected or collected so that it's not just sitting in a mailbox available for anyone to pick up. Sometimes you need to change the locks on a home or an apartment, especially if there's been, caregivers or cleaners coming into the home. You may need to change the locks to secure the actual property. You also will definitely need to secure any valuables in the home, and this includes jewelry. So this may mean putting it under lock and key, or it may mean removing it. Of course, you'll want to inventory it as you take it off the premises, but because it'll need to be accounted for at some point to the heirs or the beneficiaries. But what we don't want is for anyone to potentially come into the property and, for the wrong reasons, take it as an opportunity to pick through the decedent's personal property. The second thing you'll want to do is you'll want to request certified copies of the death certificate. Now, oftentimes you can get those through the funeral home, or you may be able to get those through the vital records department of the county of where the decedent passed. But this is definitely a step that you'll want to take right away, because the death certificates can take many days to get to you, and you're going to typically need those starting right away. Sometimes people ask how many, and it really depends. I would say I usually recommend getting at least 10, and if the decedent had a lot of property, then you may want to get as many as 20, but they can always be ordered later. So typically, initially, you're going to want to get 10 to 12 certified copies of the death certificate. The third thing that you'll want to do right away is to assess all financial accounts. So as soon as possible, gather up as best you can a list of all the bank accounts to determine what the legal title is on each account, because that's going to determine what the next step is. If an account has a beneficiary or a joint owner, then that account will go to that person. Sometimes we'll need to stop automatic payments or automatic debits that are coming out of the account. Notifying the banks, though, is usually a good thing, because then they can assess whether there's any improper activity going on with an account. You'll also want to assess credit cards, probably put a stop to most of those right away, just again so that there's no improper charges going on with those. Fourth, you're going to want to locate any estate planning documents, whether it be a will or a trust, and then you're going to want to call probably a probate or an estate planning attorney so that they can help you through the next steps legally of what needs to be done according to those documents. So this is important because the estate of your loved one is going to need to be administered, whether it be a trust administration or whether it be a probate. Those assets will need to be basically distributed properly. So that's, for example, if there was only a will, or if there was a will and a trust, that's where the attorney will help you collect the assets, determine all the legal titles, read the documents that are in place, and then take the next step legally, whether it be paying debts, taxes, creditors, and then making any final distributions. So fifth step, another step of course, is to relocate any pets that either have been left behind or abandoned so that they can get on to another owner. Occasionally I do see where the decedent has left wishes about that, or perhaps even money behind for the care of their pets and who they might go to. So another reason why you want to make sure to see if that's written down in the will or in the trust. But that way the pets can make sure that they're taken care of. The sixth thing you're going to want to do is to contact Social Security. Benefits will be stopped as soon as you talk to them. Oftentimes they do need to retract a payment, but that's nothing, basically then you can inquire about whether there's any benefits that might be available for a surviving spouse or a surviving child. So Social Security is definitely near the top of the list for who would need to be contacted. Moving on to the seventh step, you'll want to open any benefit claims that you or the beneficiaries may be entitled to. So this may be life insurance, this may be benefits through a former employer. Those are typically the big ones. Sometimes there's a union or a civic organization that the loved one belonged to that has some sort of a death benefit. But typically the place to start is life insurance or employers. Finally, the eighth step to take following the death of a loved one really is to start thinking about the long-term care of any surviving spouse. So if there is an elderly spouse that has survived, there needs to be an assessment of whether that person can live alone, as well as what their potential needs are for estate planning. Sometimes they have either no documents in place or outdated documents in place, or documents that just need to be updated now that their spouse has passed away. So taking a look at the big picture about what their needs are, their income needs, what their physical needs are now that their spouse has passed away is a next very important step at the top of the list. There you have it. That's at least eight straightforward steps to take immediately to get a grip on what the administrative needs and tasks would be right off the top following the death of a loved one. And of course, if anything that I've just talked about, if you need help with that, that's one of the things that we're here for and that we help families navigate. And you can always give us a call or reach out to our firm.